one of the most popular phrase in Korea in 2017, which is 꽃길만 걷자, right? Like literally meaning of this phrase is let's only walk on the flower road. And the natural translation of that would be things will get better from now. I wish us the best of luck. So this phrase is used by Sejong Kim when she gave a speech being one of the girl band IOI, right? Pick me. Right? This speech was dedicated to her mom, as she will make her mom happier than ever before because they went through a lot of hardship, a lot of struggles in their life. So whenever I agreed for the new year, I said, Happy New Year, let's walk on a 꽃길. Let's walk 꽃길만, right? With the intention of, okay, last year was not bad, but I hope you and I can only be happier this year than last year. We also have our own New Year's resolution that we plan, right? So do I. I have so many plans, so many new resolutions in my head, in my mind. Like starting strong my last semester in seminary, like losing 50 pounds. Oh my gosh, eating healthy, exercising every day. I was like so pumped up, so energetic, like yes, let's do it. This is New Year, I can do it, right? And spend the minimum and save money. I was so excited, but it was very human and self-centered. At that moment, something happened. I had a car accident on January 1st. What an unlucky guy, right? From the first day of the new year, getting an accident. What a way to start the new year, right? But listen, it gets worse. After 15 days, I tore my ACL, which is anterior cruciate ligament of my right knee whenever I was playing basketball. That's why I walk like kind of weird, right? So I was frustrated because my New Year's resolution, like every single plan that I was planning in my mind, in my head, now is useless. My 꽃길, my flower road, is already ruined. I was angry at God, since I know how hard and painful to have knee surgery and the rehab for 6 to 8 months and to fully recover. And afterward, because I have already gone through that process 4 years ago in college, during the other ACL, I was like, okay, why God? Why this time? Why are you doing this to me? I planned so many things like for this new year, but from the first day, from the first month, you already ruined my 꽃길. So I just start to blame God about things that happened to me. But then after a while, I became angry first, but then later on I felt very like powerless, useless. I was like pouring down, I was crying because there was nothing that I could do at that time. Just crying to God. I was afraid of having that same process again. I was depressed of overthinking the whole process and the whole payment of surgery we have and everything that has to go through afterwards. Even I, as a pastor, I fall down. Whenever I face hardship, because I'm also a human being like you guys. I'm not a perfect man. But today's passage in verse 2 says, be fully joyful when you face trials. Like what? Like, how can you be joyful? What do you even mean? Like, how can you be joyful when you face struggles, when you face trials? Doesn't make sense, right? But James is telling us today, in verse 3, that facing trials is the testing of our faith so we can produce perseverance, which means be patient, right? True faith can be found out if your faith is legit or not when you face trials and go through a hard time in our faith journey. If not, how do you know if your faith is real or not? If your faith is strong or not? So our question today is like, why God is allowing us to have trials, to face these trials? It is because we cannot verify if our faith is real faith or not without having trials. So we often sing and confess God's promise is true. Your promise is true. I trust you in your promise. But when we face hardship, we say, how this thing can happen if there's God? How can God does this to me? How God is allowing this to me? So when we doubt God's existence, we doubt God's love, we doubt God's promise, that is trials and temptation. We often doubt God's existence because of our circumstance. We need faith with patience, perseverance, and waiting. And these days, like our generation, your generation, we live in very crazy, busy life, and many times we have to do things fast. Like this world is working like that. So we tend to get faster. We tend to not be patient enough. But that is God wants for us, being patient. So when do you practice your faith? Faith does not grow if you are not using, if you are not practicing, if you are not exercising. So today, I will share 3 points how to practice our faith to grow. There's so many things that we can talk about through this passage, but I want to focus just 3 points. First, trial is a blessing for me. God has never used a person who has not ever faced hardship in the Bible, or even in the world. Verse 12, it says, blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. One thing that we have to remember when we face hardship is God does not use that person if she or he does not get through the trials that God allows. Like Abraham, like Moses, David, Joseph, they all went through hardship, struggles, temptation, trials that God allows them. There's no one in the Bible who God used without the trials of faith. That's what we have to remember. It could be economic difficulty, it could be struggles in relationship, it could be struggles at the school, with the grade, with just so many different things, different activities at the school. Spiritual challenges coming from not being answered your prayer. All that kind of struggle and trials come to us. The test is a blessing of God to use me bigger and greater. To use you greater and bigger. Also, there's a trial that cannot be exempted, which is the cross of Jesus Christ. We cannot be used by God if we don't go through the hardships. Even Jesus went through the hardship and struggles. He died for us on the cross. Do you know what he said to God? God, can you just take this away from me? But if it is your will, I'll obey. So Jesus obeyed because that was God's will. Second, the reason of being tempted is because our egos are not fully dead. Verse 13 says, when tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. So that 욕심, our desires is our ego. The desire in me produces a test, a trial. If we ask why there's a test, it is because everything becomes a test if my ego is not fully dead. So the question is, how can we gain the power to overcome this temptation? Then we confess, I have already died on the cross. Why it would matter to that person? We should not blame God for being tempted. God does not make things hard for you because he loves you. He loves each of us. My ego that has not died makes me feel my circumstance hard and harder. But if we crucify my thought, my perspective, my opinion to the cross, then the word of God becomes the truth for you. Now that you have received Jesus Christ as the Savior of your life, some of them are still on the process of receiving Jesus Christ as your Savior. It has to be clear that it is a blessing as we die and Jesus lives in us. It is impossible to fully obey God unless our egos are dead. The temptation does not refer only with hardship, but sometimes there's a wonderfully good and wonderful things in our lives, like so much greater things coming to us. Like something that you should not let it go. That could be temptation. The way not to lose faith is thanking God in all circumstances and proclaiming with faith and let my ego die on the cross and let Jesus lives in me. That kind of life, then you will know the amazing gospel of the cross. In every temptation, I should die. In every single circumstance, my ego has to die so I can let Jesus live in me so he can be my master of my life. And you proclaim that Jesus is your life, that confession will restore you in your life and your soul. Patience. Faith that does not react to the circumstance, but only believing in God's promise. That faith will make you get through the trials and temptation. The third point is our conclusion should be God is love. The truth. God is love. Verse 17 says, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. God's ultimate purpose for us is to give us blessing and pouring His love towards each of us. That's His ultimate purpose. Yes, because of trials and temptation, we will fall in our lives. But God will help us to get up again and not to fail. Yes, we will fall. I fall as a pastor. We also would fall. But God will help us not to fail. If any difficulty that cannot comprehend are allowed by God, then He will eventually make those difficulties to be the blessing to us. He will transform that difficulty into blessing. Therefore, you will not get peace when all your troubles and sorrows are gone. But when you fully trust in God and move forward with faith, that's the time when you will get the true peace in God. Do you think I'm sharing this with you because I have mastered all these 3 points and everything, that to be patient and just like rely on God, trusting God? No. I haven't. I'm still in my process. Trusting God, obeying God. And just fully confess that this hardship and struggle will become blessing for me. I'm praying every day. So there was one song throughout this week that was in my mind. It says, my weakness is my greatest strength. My failure is my testimony. My pain and sorrow is my glory to God. I will follow you as you called me today to obey. That song just like was in my mind, in my head, like throughout the week. I don't know why, it just popped up. So I started to meditate. God, what are you trying to say? Okay. I struggled. I fell. All my plans that I had planned for this year is all ruined. Even from the first day, in the first month of the year. Why are you doing this for me? What are you trying to say to me? So everything that I have planned was from my mind, from my will, not God's will. He made me humble. Okay, Joe, I know what you're planning. I know so many good things that you have planned, but it's not for me. It's not what I want. So I want you to stop. I want you to pause. And think about what I would want for you, for your life. I get that message and I'm still struggling to fully receive God's message. I know. God has better thing, the best thing for me and for my life, but right now, at this moment, it hurts. It is painful going through all these struggles and hardship. But God is making me to fully depend and rely on Him. So let me ask you, what is your trials and temptation? What is your struggles and hardship that you are going through right now, today? Are you complaining? Are you blaming God about what you are going through? At that moment, just think and remind what we just heard today. God is telling us today, I fully know what situation you are in. And I do not allow you to have a struggle that you can't afford, that you can't overcome. Your worry are too much. You worry too much for tomorrow. Just do your best living today and fully trusting me. I am walking with you. I am the Lord of Emmanuel, who is, and will be with you. Come and trust me, my sons and daughters. Lastly, I want to close the sermon with just reading the 1 Corinthians chapter 10:13. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. Let us pray.